theme of trading off pieces, knight b6. And here, I believe white often plays bishop f4. And now, instead of queen d8, which is most popular, black has been experimenting very successfully with this new variation, or slightly newer line, queen d7. This is only slightly less popular, but it has been scoring much better, and the average opponents playing this line is much higher. And now white often continues castles queenside, and black reveals the idea of queen d7 by playing queen g4. And white can't avoid the queen trade here with something like queen e3, because I believe he'll get into some strife with a move such as knight bd5. So white often just trades off the queens, queen takes g4, bishop takes g4, f3, bishop e6. And according to John Watson, black has very few problems in this type of position. Maybe play might continue the knight is attacked, so knight takes b6, a takes b6, and black might develop his dark squared bishop with g6 followed by bishop g7. And I think he is comfortably equal in this type of position. So this queen d6 line in general has been doing quite well, and a lot of strong players are now turning to it. Sergei Tiviakov has been playing this move endlessly in the last few years. But the traditional main line is queen a5, which is still most popular. d4, knight f6, knight f3, c6. And here black has a very simple development plan. It is just to play bishop f5. This is just a general development plan. e6, bishop e7, knight bd7, castles kingside, and sometimes the bishop can also work well on d6. If the queen is attacked, she will find a good home on c7, which is generally a good square for the queen in this variation. And often black will play h6, so that the bishop has a retreat square on h7 in case white plays knight h4 to attack this bishop. So that is just a very general plan. I'll show you an example of this later on. Bishop c4, bishop f5, and now I think at amateur level, white will most often play castles here, which is obviously the most natural move. The main line is actually bishop d2. So after castles, black can enact this development system just by playing e6, and after rook e1, bishop e7, and the development is very simple, just knight bd7, followed by castles kingside, and h6. And I believe black is doing very well in this type of position. He's equalized. I've played this variation for 2 years prior to switching to the French defense, and I've won countless positions in this variation, simply because black has a good endgame structure, and white will often falter and lose material in this type of position. But the main move is bishop d2, or the main move in, let's say, master play, e6. And now knight d5 is the trendy variation. The old main line runs queen e2. After knight d5, black must move back with the queen. And after knight takes f6 check, white reveals the point of him playing knight d5. So either black has to compromise his pawn structure or move his queen to a slightly vulnerable square. Queen takes f6 is the second most popular response. And now white is doing quite well with the move queen e2. And I believe black cannot just take this pawn on c2, because d5 gives gives white a very large initiative. It exploits the pin on the king, so c takes d5, bishop takes d5, and white has plenty of compensation for the pawn. He can also continue rook c1 and followed by rook c8 or rook c7. So white has plenty of compensation for this pawn. It's not good for black to take this pawn. And probably a move bishop g4, I believe, is most popular now. And if white just continues with something like castles kingside, then black is doing very well with bishop e7, knight d7 castles, and he has quite a strong position. So white normally plays d5, just exploiting the pin on the king and ruining black's strong pawn structure, because the d4 pawn can often become weak, and white just gets rid of it, and also opens up black's queenside in the process. So play most often continues. C takes d5. Oh, sorry, bishop takes f3, I should say. G takes f3. C takes d5. Bishop takes d5. Knight d7. Castle's queenside. Bishop e4. And I believe white has a slight advantage in this type of position. He has the two bishops and some attacking prospects, whereas black's king is looking to be somewhat weak. I think the two bishops, it matters quite a bit in this type of position. Black can easily get into trouble and fall into some sort of mating attack. The other move is g takes f6, which is the most popular move, and it is a very solid system. After g takes f6, in exchange for compromising his pawn structure, black has the open g file, and he also has greater control of these e5 and g5 squares, so it's important that white's knight is prevented from coming to this e5 square, where it would create a lot of havoc. And now white plays bishop b3 so that he can prepare queen e2 whilst defending the c2 pawn. Knight d7, queen e2, queen c7, castles. And here black is doing well. He can play bishop d6 to complete its development. And although I believe white has the smallest of advantages in this position, black's position is very hard to crack. And I don't believe white's advantage can actually mount to much in this sort of position. White normally plays knight h4 to force black to play bishop g6. Otherwise black would put his bishop on g4, and this pin would be annoying for white. So knight h4, and obviously black wants to avoid tripled pawns, so bishop g6. And now black can develop bishop d6, king b8. White often takes this bishop, so h takes g6 gives white gives black a funny looking pawn diamond, and black is reasonably solid in this type of position. I don't believe white has very much. But the traditional main line runs queen e2, and now bishop b4. Black wants to nullify this potential attack on the queen by the bishop. And now castle's queenside, knight bd7, a3, bishop takes c3, bishop takes c3, queen c7. And this is the traditional main line. And I believe through a countless number of examples, black is equalized here, because white's two bishops do not function very well in this type of position. The pawn structure isn't suited for these bishops, because black has these very rock solid pawns, and it just prevents activity from these bishops. So, and black has good knights. He can develop the knights d5, d4, etc. So black is equalized in this type of position, and he shouldn't have much difficulty. Okay, thanks for watching this video.